Go.
Okay folks, we're going to talk about this morning here at Jones Air Conditioning and Electrical. We are electricians. I know we see a lot of videos on air conditioning. I want to point out we had a customer call and say he had problems with his AC system. It was kicking in and out, his stove was kicking in and out, his water heater wasn't working part-time, he was losing power at about 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. So what the problem was, when we came out here, we noticed that he was losing power intermittently. We came out here and we looked at the meter center. I want you to look at these wires right here. Really? Look at this. See how this is all melted? So this one's all melted. I want you to look right here, particularly right here on the side. See how this wire has melted against the frame? And what's going to happen here, be it next week or next month, this center is going to explode because of this wire melted right here. Right there, you're going to see a bare spot almost against this frame. So what we're going to do, we're going to take this all out. We're going to shorten the conduit. We're going to lower the meter center. And according to National Electric Code, we'll use bonded bushings. We'll clean this up, and we got to add 2 ground rods. This here is a number 4 solid copper wire, okay, which is required by the National Electric Code in Article 250, by the way, for you guys. And we're going to add 2 ground rods. The 2 ground rods we're going to add because the one ground rod's been in here, this one here, has been here for, I don't know, 30 years. So, in this salty, sandy soil here in Naples, Florida, the ground rod has probably totally disintegrated. So what we're going to do, we're going to add 2 ground rods, 8-foot galvanized. The National Electric Code says they have to be more than 6 feet apart to get 25 ohms of resistance. So we'll show you how that works, okay? Okay, what we're doing here, we're going to replace this meter center. You see what we've got here? We have the wires coming from the house and the power coming from the electric company, okay? I want to point out something here. Most power companies want you to come in on the right-hand side of the meter center. This is line. That means this is the power side for the electric company. This is load. So these wires have to come up and go to the line side. The house wire in this case is going to go right to the back of the panel. Also, I want to point out to you, these are what we call concentric knockouts. So they're designed to take up a multitude of different sized conduits. And we're going to knock it out right now to a 2-inch here, and then a 2.5-inch here. Just going to show you real quickly. The tools that you need normally to do that would be a screwdriver, and I recommend that you start it nice and slow here. Don't get crazy. What I like to do is I like to take my sheet metal cutter and I like to just actually cut. Notice how I'm just going to just barely come over here and just pop this out. I'm doing this nice and slow. Normally, if I wasn't doing the video, I would go all the way over to this side here, but I'm just going to do it one at a time just to show you how easy this is. If you take your screwdriver and beat them, you end up messing up your whole knockout procedure. You've got to be very careful. This is a very delicate part of the operation. Now here's where I'm going to come in here. I'm actually going to lay my hammer here. Just get a little bit of pry right here. All I'm doing is just kind of cracking this loose. Because if you're out in the field 20 miles away and you mess this up, then you have to go get a reducer, and it doesn't look like a professional job either. Now I break mine up into quarters just because that way I take less of a chance on messing up my knockout. Very gently, just grab it, rock it very slowly. For you experienced electrician, you've done this 100 times, I'm sure, and you know this trick. For you first-time electricians and homeowners that may be trying to do some stuff yourself, this is the way to do it. Now this is what we've got. I now have a perfect 2-inch knockout to go into the house. Now I'm going to do the bottom. There's no reason to go any further than this. I'll get back with you in just a moment. Okay, we've knocked out our concentric knockouts. Okay, now I want to talk about putting the lock nut on. This here is a 2.5-inch lock nut. One thing I want to point out to you is if you look at the lock nut real close, it's not flat. It's got a curve to it, an upward curve. And the reason for that, the old saying is righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, is this thing tightens up, these corners dig into the metal, which helps create a solid ground. Because this here is what we call IMC conduit, intermediate metal conduit, and this is buried under the ground. So we have to use this. We also have to use bonding bushings. So that's all you gotta do. We'll put this on the way it's supposed to go on. Now let's go bring it down, an inch or so. I'll have to adjust it. And I'll show you what we got to do to tighten it up. Okay, folks, we got our 2 ground rods here. We're going to drive these in the ground. One thing I want to point out to you when you get a ground rod, you're going to have. I had a customer one time ask me at an Ace Hardware store. He says, "How do you drive a ground rod?" I said, "There's your point, right there. You take that point and you put it in the ground." So we're going to take it right here. We've already measured out. I'm going to show you something here. The National Electrical Code says 6 feet. So what we figured out here is 6 feet as the crow flies here. Okay, so we're at about 7.5 feet, maybe 7.5 feet. Okay, so what we've actually done here, we're just going to take our ground wire, our number 4 solid, run it underneath the sidewalk. We're going to run it down here, okay? I think this ground here is so soft that I won't need a ground rod driver. Let me point this out to you first, guys. For you folks that live up north, where the ground is hard, solid, rock, red clay, black soil in the Midwest, here's a spline bit. It's actually made for, in this particular case, a Bosch hammer drill. Okay? So we'll take this drill, we'll put it in here, get a 6-foot ladder most of the time, take the flat part of the ground rod, put it right here, and just beat it down. Just get up there and just drive her down, okay? That's all you gotta do. But I think here in Florida, our ground is so soft. Let me see if I can just do it by hand. I know some of you guys think, oh man, this guy's got it made here. I have spent hours up in North Carolina driving ground rods down to the point where the heads were mushroomed with the sledgehammer. Okay, now that's what I'm talking about. So let me show you how this works. I always like to double check, make sure it's in good. Of course, you always want to make sure it's on hammer drill. And we'll get right here. Okay, what I've got here, guys, is a bonding bushing, and I've taken it loose here just so I can get it on here because I got an inspection in a couple of minutes. I bought this bushing so when I get it on, I can just lay the wire in there and it'll torque it down. I'm just going to put it, it's got an insulated throat, so I'm just going to put it on, tighten it down, then I'm going to make up my connection. I'll show you the rest of this in just a moment, okay? Okay, we talked earlier this morning about how this wire was all burnt. This here is the power company side, so I cannot tell them they need to pull the wire. So what I'm going to do is I went and bought some 3M Thermoflex. It's called friction tape. Okay, it's a good product. What we're going to do, we're going to just take and wrap this wire. We want to use the kind of the pull and stretch method here. I can't make the power company do anything, like I said, so I'm going to do the best I can for my owner to make sure they're in good shape here. Because if you remember earlier, this wire was actually touching the side of the meter can. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to really wrap this good, and then I'm going to put regular black electrical tape on it, okay? Get a measurement here. Okay, so it's about where I'm going to stop right here. I'm going to trim off just a little bit of it and lay it in there. I'll show you how that works in just a moment. Okay, what we've done here, we've made our connections. Power company, come into the line side, load side, going into the house. This is our ground wire going to our 2 ground rods. This is our bonding jumper because this is metal conduit. You see how we've got this tied in together right here? We also, you see this here, this is called deoxidization. It keeps aluminum from corroding because this probably be here another 20-30 years. It just keeps it from turning green and deoxidizes it. Okay, so we're completed here. The power company has been made aware of this installation right here. That'll be their choice on what they want to do. When you get finished with the job, it's very important to close it all up and to seal everything up. So we recommend that you put the little cardboard piece here. Set this in here. And you're done. We wait for the power company from here. If you have any questions on how to change out a meter center, give us a call at 239-596-5855 or go to jonesairconditioning.com. Thank you.